Good morning, and welcome to another episode of A Conversation with Father Orsi. Happy Easter! I'm B.C. Cloutier, President of Action for Life, and this is Father Michael Orsi. How are you today, Father?
Hallelujah! How can you be anything but an hallelujah person today? It means like, hooray! Jesus has risen from the dead.
Or as my Greek friends say, Christos Anesti.
That's right.
So all of you Greeks out there, please. That's all I know. Don't talk to me in Greek.
It might not be their Easter, though. The Greeks have a different
week,
Easter
right?
because of a different calendar.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so happy Easter in advance, if you're Greek.
We are celebrating the resurrection of Christ today, which is I guess probably the most important holiday in the Catholic Church.
The most important holiday in the whole world, and especially, if we want to say to whom most especially, Christians. It's the great holiday for Christians. No matter what denomination you are, it is all about Jesus and his resurrection. Let's be clear about this, folks. We're not talking here about some kind of a spiritual event that the apostles just kind of felt his spirit among them. This is literally the physical body of Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified, died, was buried. That's the creed, folks. When you say the creed on Easter in a very special way, meditate on those words. Crucified, died, was buried, and rose again on the third day. And this is that third day. This is Easter Sunday. And all of the Gospels talk about this resurrection and the empty tomb and the witness of the apostles, the witness of the apostles. Let me just be clear about this. Our faith is not based on the empty tomb, right? Why? We've all heard of Jimmy Hoffa, haven't we?
Yes.
He kind of disappeared. And so I suppose people could make an argument and say, well, they just took his body and buried it and it got lost.
In a mall in New Jersey. But I digress.
Yeah, well, have you been to that mall? And it could also be said that, and there's certain books that have come out that Jesus really didn't die; it just looked like he died, and then he was resuscitated for a while. But there's all kinds of crazy stories. A book like that came out, I think, about 1960. The Passover Plot. It was phony. Okay, it was something that it was literally a production put on by the apostles and Jesus. Folks, that's baloney, and it's also what we call heresy. That only looked like Jesus died. He really didn't die. No, he really died. And the reason why we have to be clear about this and why the creed is so clear about it is because it also says he was buried. So it means he literally died, and he was really dead. He was buried, and then he rose again on the third day. So when you come to that idea of the third day, you have to say to yourself, how did he appear to the apostles? Mary Magdalene, okay? When we look at that, as I said, it's not the empty tomb. We talked about, Jimmy Hoffa's body could be stolen. Maybe it just looked like he died. He really didn't die. He was revived after he died. No, he appeared to the apostles. He appeared to the 12, and they saw him, and they touched him. Remember, Thomas.
Doubting
Unless
Thomas.
I can put my hand in his side and my finger in the nail marks, I will not believe. And so we're not dealing here with a ghost. We're actually dealing with the resurrection, the coming back to life of a body that was dead and buried and is risen. He also ate with the disciples. Some people will say they were only seeing a ghost. All right? Now, folks, in all due respect, and I'm not being funny, most of you remember Casper the Friendly Ghost. You remember Casper the Friendly Ghost?
I do indeed.
All right. Now, when Casper would eat or drink, what happened? It went right through him.
Yep.
Because there's no material substance there. He's a ghost. It's just no matter there. With Jesus, he eats with them. Give me the bread. Give me the fish. He eats with them. He is able to be touched by them. And he is also seen by them. And not just one person, but you have multiple attestations. And that's one of the things, when we bring a case to court and you're looking for witnesses, one of the most important things we can have is multiple attestations.
Right.
What took place? And therefore, a number of people can testify and say, this is what took place. More so than that, if they can be more so than that, is that the people who witnessed the resurrection, they were willing to die for the truth. And then, of course, they went out to the whole world. They left everything.
I might add, many of them ultimately did die as martyrs.
All except John. All except John, the beloved disciple. He lived to a ripe old age. He's the writer of the fourth gospel, and he's a substantial writer. We'll say that substantial writer of the apocalypse of the book of Revelation, the epistles of John. So he lived, a long time. But the other ones, they were martyred, and martyred horribly, horribly. Even, we have the stories of Peter. He was crucified upside down. So they are willing to give their lives for this thing that they have witnessed. Now, question comes as this, and a lot of people are going to be maybe a little shocked when I say this. Suppose you would have been a waiter at the upper room.
Okay.
And remember, the door was locked, and the apostles were afraid because they could be next,
Mm-hmm.
And they locked the door, and then Jesus comes through the door. All right? Now, Jesus is resurrected. It means that he is no longer subject to space and time, number one. And for the most part, when you talk about space and time, you're talking about things that are limited. Our time is a human creation. I mean, we create time, we create calendars, we create clocks, and and we also are able to read the sun and the moon and see what the seasons are and the stars, where the stars are. We can do that, but these are human concepts. The same thing as a human concept when we talk about the time, space, material things. What can we do? What can't we do? And we expect that everything will be consistent with what we understand to be the absolute scientific truth.
Mm-hmm.
Could a resurrected person like Jesus, living a new, it's a new existence. It is the human body. It is the human body, but it is now a reconstituted body. It's a body that lives in a new way. In a new way. Therefore, in many ways, when we look at this, well, not us, but the apostles looked at the body of Jesus, they have to see it with the eyes of faith. It is a special grace given to them that they could see the resurrected body, and that resurrected body is indeed the same body, but in a new form. It is living a new existence. So let me finish this one. This is big. If you're the waiter in the room, well, I'm going to be very, very woke. The wait person. You're the wait person in the room. The apostles are in there.
Yep.
Would the wait person have seen Jesus?
That was going to be my question to you. I would guess the answer is no.
Yeah, the answer is no.
Right. Just the apostles would be able to see. Yeah.
It's a grace. It's a special grace. And they come to that vision of Jesus by faith. But it's real. It's real because, as I said, this is a new existence that Jesus is living. And this is the existence that we hope to have someday, that those of us who are baptized into Christ will also rise with him and share in a like resurrection. But you have to remember, folks, this is not the same life being lived all over again. Right? For the most part, I think most of us would say In the present condition we're in, once is enough. Once is enough.
Probably so.
Yeah. So this is what Easter is all about. A lot of people don't realize that. And I'll give you another example. Suppose CNN was present in the upper room when Jesus appears to the 12. Well, I'm sorry. Let's make believe Fox was there.
They have better ratings.
Better ratings. Fox was there. Would they have picked up Jesus on film? What do you think?
No.
No, exactly. No. Because,
and if you and I were there, we wouldn't have seen Jesus.
No, unless we really had a lot of faith and grace and special grace. I'm sure.
Special grace,
I'm
right?
sure if we were there. I'm sure if we were there. But the apostles were given that special grace to see this Jesus in his resurrected state. And that's what, the testimony of the apostles is all about. Some people say, well, if I could have just been there myself, well, maybe we might not have seen what they saw.
Right.
Anything, maybe. If we could have just had it on film, why didn't Jesus appear? And when we have all kinds of media that could have captured every word he said and captured, the resurrection. You know why, folks? Because this is something that is so extraordinary, the media could never have captured it. The Gospels are so extraordinary that they are testimonies of faith. This is not, some kind of a special means of reporting the news. It's not that. It's not the news that we expect when we have an engagement with some historic event that we want this on film and we can watch it over and over and over again. No, it's not that at all. The Gospels are testimonies of faith. The resurrection is testimony of faith, but they put their money where their mouth was. They saw Jesus. They heard what he said. Go out to all the world, tell the good news, and they did it, and they gave their lives for it. Mm-hmm. That's valid testimony. And when it comes from a number of witnesses, it's true.
Right, sure. I don't want to get on a rabbit hole, but it occurred to me, if the media were in the upper room, well, we know about the Abraham Zapruder film, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. And that film,
That's Kennedy's assassination, folks.
Kennedy's assassination, there was a gentleman who recorded it, and it's available online. I mean, people have seen it. It is, I would guess, irrefutable, right? It's there. And yet, people refute it again and again and again, and they've twisted the story. Oliver Stone made a hit movie
right.
that has some historical fact and a lot of conjecture. So, maybe if we had the opportunity to have media there, it would have become just a circus.
It could have been a circus, or it could have been a great flop. It could have been a great flop.
Well, especially if the camera couldn't capture Jesus,
right.
But all the apostles said he's right there.
Exactly. But as I said earlier, we're limited in this world by material things, matter, and we can only go so far. I can't walk through a door. But when you have this resurrected body of Jesus, we see because the sunlight or light is reflected on something that is made out of stuff. And it's limited insofar as, what we can see and what we can't see, what we can see through, what we can get through. With Jesus, this is not, stuff anymore, but this is a new existence, and this new existence is not going to be subject to even the natural law where you have light reflecting on matter, and then we get this projection, and we are able to see it through our optic nerve. How's that?
Fair enough.
All right.
We're going to take a break, Tom.
Okay.
We'll be back right after this.
Hi, folks. Over the weeks, you have become more and more familiar with our program, Conversations with Father Orsi. I know that you are enjoying the programs because you tell me that you do. I want you to be sure that you should never worry about missing an episode, because you can go to actionforlife.org and catch all of the episodes that we have produced over the last year. Now, also, extra added bonus, you can watch my homilies, my weekly homilies about the Sunday readings. That's also on actionforlife.org. Lastly, Both of these adventures, conversations and the homilies, they cost money. And I'm going to have to ask you if you can help us out, because so many of you tell me how much you enjoy the program. Some people tell me our Sunday wouldn't be the same. We record the program, we watch them during the week. This is an expensive enterprise, and we think it's an important way to get out the gospel message and to talk about those issues of the day that are important to us as Christians. So please go to your website, actionforlife.org. There is a button you can click for donations, and please, please be generous to us to keep this show on the air. Your Sundays will not be the same without it. Ladies and gentlemen, we hear a lot today about society redistributing the goods of the people who work for those goods. We are called to work. Jesus was a worker himself. He was a carpenter. The apostles, they worked. They were fishermen. They never thought of themselves as being entitled to anything. As a matter of fact, St. Paul says, I'm a tent maker. I'm not going to impose on anybody. I'm going to work with my own hands. And a lot of people have forgotten that today. We are called to work, to use our natural gifts, to use our talents, to use our minds, and sometimes to use our backs to do the work that is going to provide a living for us and for our families. When we don't work, we diminish ourselves. There's no sense of satisfaction, accomplishment, no sense that we have put our time, our effort, and our sweat into providing for ourselves and for our families. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's think about what that means. It doesn't just simply mean taking a salary. It means providing for ourselves, providing for our families, and thanking Almighty God for all the good things He has given us, and asking us to co-create with Him with the goods of the earth, and to use our minds to make something wonderful for ourselves, for our family, and for our country.
Welcome back to A Conversation with Father Orsi. I'm B.C. Cloutier. I might add, Father, that I wore a white jacket today because white is a symbol of the resurrection. Right?
Are you trying to shame me?
Not at all. Not at all.
Give me that jacket.
I like it when you wear a black suit.
No, thank you. Thank you.
And that collar, that is primo.
All right. Real contrast, huh? Black and white.
Can we talk about how the tradition of Easter has evolved over time?
Yeah, well, certainly the tradition of Easter evolves over, the resurrection, and as the church began to grow and to develop, the disciples were following the Lord's command, of course, do this in remembrance of me, and for them, Sunday was the day of the resurrection. So every Sunday is really a small Easter. And that's why, it's so important to go to church, because we are an Easter people. We are an Easter people, and that's where our identity comes from. So the early church, Sunday is the small Easter, and in a very short period of time, they began to celebrate what we call the Easter Vigil. And that's the very, very early days of the church, first century, where they would gather, and during the Easter Vigil, they would have, and we still do it today, folks. If you had gone to the Easter Vigil on Holy Saturday night, you have a reenactment of salvation history. And some of you, you remember, of course, that the church is dark at the beginning, and then a new fire is lit outside the church, and everybody is given a small candle. And then there is a great big candle called the Easter candle, or the Paschal candle, and it's lit from a new fire outside, then brought into church, and everybody gets a light on their small candle. So the church that's in darkness is now filled with light, and the chant goes, Light of Christ. In Latin, we used to say, Lumen Christi, Light of Christ. The whole church then begins to brighten up because everybody's little candle is lit.
Right.
And so it's the idea that the light of Christ has come into the darkness. The world was in darkness. Christ came and he dissipated the darkness and his light fills the whole church, because we are all little Christ.
It was a very inspiring ceremony last night, as it always is.
It's just fantastic. And then, from there, we go into a salvation history. And there are 10 readings. Most churches don't do the 10 readings because it takes a long time. As it is, the vigil takes maybe 2.5 hours. It can't start before sundown.
Right.
And it's about, usually around here, about 8 o'clock. And so it's a long service. Well worth it, though. I mean, you're living out the truths of the faith in a couple of hours. But you have the whole history of salvation, the creation. You have the story of Moses going through the Red Sea. You have the other prophets proclaiming the coming of Christ. That's why, in our Bible, the prophets come at the end of the Old Testament. And why? Because the prophets foretell Christ. If you look at some of the Jewish renditions of the scriptures, the prophets come in the middle, and then Psalms and the wisdom literature comes at the end. So, we have arranged the Bible in such a way that it all points to Christ. And then, of course, at the Easter Vigil, after the readings are done, whether it's 3 or 10, then comes the great sound of the Alleluia, 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 and we read the gospel. Reading that gospel, it's the gospel of the resurrection. And of course, that's the center of our faith. That's why we believe what we believe, because Jesus rose from the dead.
And it is only on that evening that gospel is read. Am I correct?
Well, it's read at different times during the year, but on that evening, it's specifically focused on the resurrection of Jesus. And you're talking about John's gospel.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let me also add that at the Easter Vigil, there are also people who are baptized and confirmed. And
really?
Oh, yes. So people will be baptized, those who've been preparing to come into the church. They go through a process called OCIA, Order of Christian Initiation for Adults. They'll come in, study, pray, and become immersed in the teachings of the church. And at the Easter Vigil, they are welcomed into the church and they're baptized. Also, there are people who perhaps are not Catholics or were not Catholics. They've been baptized. Let me tell you this, folks. No matter which way you were baptized, if you're baptized in a Trinitarian formula, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, guess what? It's a valid baptism. You don't have to be baptized all over again. So you could be, a
lot of people don't know that.
Methodist, you could be Baptist, you could be some member of some Christian community church, whatever the case may be. It's a valid baptism, but in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Those people then that have already been baptized may be confirmed by the priest of the parish at the Easter Vigil.
Not the bishop, just the priest of the parish.
Doesn't have to be, right, not the bishop. Okay, not the bishop, just it's a special time where the priest of the parish can perform the rite of confirmation.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it really is beautiful. And then, from there, we move on to, of course, the heart of the church is the celebration of the Eucharist itself. And then, of course, communion is distributed and the service ends. It's a long service, but it's one that recapitulates everything that we believe. And it's very, very powerful, very, very moving.
I think, boy, Holy Week, there's the Thursday night, Holy Thursday, the Stations of the Cross on Friday. These are just very, very, I think, moving experiences. Yeah. And it allows you to slow down and think about Jesus and, what we believe and why we believe it.
Right. One of the things that I regret, and you just alluded to it, a chance for us to slow down. Society has changed a great deal, from when I was a boy. But I can remember, for instance, on Good Friday, a lot of the businesses were closed.
Right, sure.
From 12 to 3.
Yep.
And I can remember my mother telling us, you got to be quiet.
Yep. Don't talk during that time.
Right,
yeah.
Right. And it really made an impression that this is a very, very special time. And you would meditate on the cross. I think we have lost a lot of that. I don't know whose fault it is. Maybe it's just society's fault. Maybe it's because people are afraid of being politically incorrect and saying, I'm going to close my business from 12 to 3. But what Catholics should do, if they can get out of work, and this is another problem because you can't get out of work. And, if you can't get out of work, well, what do you do then? But if you can, it'd be just great. You go to your parish church. They used to have what they call, some places still do, the 7 last words of Christ. They would hear the 7 last words. A priest would preach on the 7 last words. Bishop Sheen used to do this at a church called St. Paul's in New York City.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And it's on 59th Street, huge church, run by the Paulist Fathers. But he preached there a number of years on Good Friday, the 7 last words. And then today, if we go through the 7 last words at 3 o'clock, the Good Friday service begins. But it really sets the tone very nicely for Friday, Saturday night with the vigil, and Sunday. So, if you want to go on a retreat, folks, and all of us need a retreat from time to time. That means, just to, back off the regular routine, take some time to think, not just think, but also to pray, and then to appreciate what God has done for us. Try to take those 3 days and make them very, very special days. As I said, the problem today is a lot of people work. A lot of people think that maybe other activities should take the place of Easter, whether it's some kind of a sports event or whether it's an entertainment, something on Netflix. If you're going to watch Netflix, watch The Passion of the Christ. Watch that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That will help set the mood.
And you can listen to Jesus Christ Superstar.
You can,
the music.
Right. Yeah. I remember I guess I was in college when Superstar came out. And at first I didn't like it. I thought, this is kind of sacrilegious,
Raucous,
right? Yeah. But the older I got, there was a lot in there that they picked up.
It's a great rock opera.
It really is.
Yeah.
What was it? Andrew Lloyd Webber and Rice and
what's his name? But Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Yeah, he gave the music and Rice gave the lyrics. And
Yvonne Elliman saying, I don't know how to love him.
Yeah.
It's a very cool
you know what album. Impressed me most of all, and that should be most of what it did. They read the scriptures. And I never heard the words before. There's a part where they say, even the rocks themselves will start to sing. They're telling Jesus, keep these people quiet, keep these people quiet. He says, I tell you right now, even if I told them to keep quiet, the rocks themselves will start to sing, Hosanna, Hosanna.
Good job.
Yeah, you didn't know that I had another career, huh?
Happy Easter,
Thank
Father.
you. God bless you, my
Great
friend.
spending the day with you. And thank you for spending the day with us. We'll be back next week, same time, same place. Until then, I'm BC Cloutier saying have a great week and God bless.